I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it's sink or swim, only option is to win. In the murky water, not a thought of giving in. I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it's sink or swim, only option is to win. In the murky water, not a thought of giving in. Welcome to the shrimp tank. Going to put it all together. This is big things. Doing big things. Chasing big dreams. Yeah, it's all real. This life's all that it seems. All the chicks scream. All the dudes yell. This is just what I do, and I do it well. With the flow fresher than the new shoe smell. Going through hell, but homie, keep going. You know the saying, you can reap what you sow in. So I don't chase girls. I just chase dreams. Play the same game, but we ain't in the same league. Running a campaign, Roadie 2016. Like a phone to die, putting me in charge. I'm a general from the front, I'ma lead the charge. Like a federal, fell on my lap never. Going hard as ever.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode here on the Shrimp Tank, powered by Celsius Beverage. If this is your first time tuning in on audio, we are now filming live every single Wednesday at 1 p.m. all across our socials at Shrimp Tank Boca, as well as on the FAU Adams Center page itself. So every week we come to you with the best and brightest entrepreneurs from down here in South Florida, really find the do's and don'ts of running a business. And I am excited for today's guest because so many people out there make marketing mistakes with the simplest thing, your headshot. Yes, you have a LinkedIn profile, you have an Instagram profile, and it just does not look correct. It's like 10 years outdated, or it just doesn't really show you and shine a light on your professionalism. So I always think that headshots mean so much because people make an impression immediately when they click your LinkedIn profile, as an example. And if they don't like what they see, next, they go to the next one, of course. So I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Kevin Cox. He's the director at the Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. He also does a lot over the FAU Tech Runway. He's the lead instructor over there. So, of course, if you're out there wondering how to get involved with FAU, I don't know what you're waiting for. Just email Kevin Cox. It's right on the website. When you Google FAU, Kevin Cox, and just shoot him an email. And he'll respond to approximately 1 out of 10, though. So you got to have a clever intro or a good headshot.
Yeah. Well, now's a good time. Things are a little bit low. It's a good time to get caught up at FAU. You might have noticed there's somebody here, practically. And that is because we are right in between sessions. So big, exciting week last week. We had all the graduations. It's always kind of a nice time of year to see students graduate and move along. It was FAU's largest graduating class in history, which brings the grand total of recent alumni to 207,000. So a lot of alumni out there, great network. And summer classes haven't started, right? So we're just right in the intercession right now, just kind of hanging around. Things are laying low. We've got our veterans growth cohort going on, and we just announced our newest class of the Tech Runway companies. We've got about 17 brand new startup companies coming into the new cohort. So we continue to keep things moving.
You just brought up a good point. There's over 200,000 people locally, practically, because no one moves out of Florida once they live in this state, I find, right? Other colleges.
Yeah, it's a real shame.
Right. Like what ends up happening is let's say I'm in New York and I went to University of Michigan. Like the odds of staying in Michigan are very low, right? People go back to New York and stay there. But once you go to Florida Atlantic University, I'm assuming there's a high stat there, like 80 to 90%. Am I somewhere right? Is there a stat on that kind of hang out in South Florida or in the state of Florida in general?
Yeah, a ton of people. It's much more rare for them to go back. I see that more commonly if they happen to be from somewhere else in the state, right? So if they happen to come here from Orlando or from Tampa, they may say, I'm going to go back to Tampa because it's like, well, it's still South Florida. It's just the other side. But yeah, if they came from somewhere terrible, they obviously stay somewhere great. Makes sense.
It just, makes sense if you're running a business down here. Think about that for a moment. Like you could partner with a lot of alumni and there's a big opportunity. That's what comes to mind as a business owner, entrepreneur. Like my mind's spinning. Like I never even thought about that for the Owl app, right? Like think about it. I could have a whole category. Now that we have groups on the platform, just put FAU alumni on there and then everyone could connect with other like-minded professionals that went to FAU. And if you have a business down here, it's like you could do the same thing because there's a lot of people that like to connect and they're more open to their alumni, I always find, because you just have so much in common. Well, let's get to our guest today. We have Daniel Wakefield in our studio. He is the founder of Top Tier Headshots. So again, going back to what I was talking about headshots earlier, if you have a bad one, call Daniel up on Owl. He's on the platform. He'll be our featured expert next week, and you could chat one-on-one and just go down to his HQ in Fort Lauderdale and get your headshots done. So Daniel, welcome to the Shrimp Tank. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself and about your brand to kick things off.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. It's great to be here today. So yeah, I'm founder of Top Tier Headshots, founded in January of 2021. And I'm a headshot photographer and expression coach. And so I like to think of myself as much more than just a photographer, but and that what I do is not like school picture day. You know, stand over here, say cheese, click, and then we're done. But actually teaching people about how to look confident in front of the camera, how to look approachable, how to look genuine, and then coaching them through that the entire time they're in front of the camera, really with the goal of, I don't want what people get from me to just be, hey, here's a picture of your face that you can put on social media, but to think about it in terms of this is marketing collateral, and to make sure it's elevated and it looks like it could be on the cover of Forbes magazine. That's really the goal with all of my clients.
Kevin, you got a shot. He said he could do headshot photos of you, and you have a shot at being on the cover of Forbes magazine. What do you think about
it? You never know.
Can this happen, Kevin?
You never do know.
Well, soon in that new studio coming, right?
Yeah.
The Shrimp Tank, that really can be true. You could be the first, person in any university to take an entrepreneurship class, have them sit in during a podcast with a successful entrepreneur, and it could literally lead to a new vertical in all universities, and you can be on that cover. I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, how interesting. While we exit some magazine publications, maybe we'll enter into some other ones. You never know. There's always exciting things happening here around at FAU.
The state of Florida, I feel like there's always new stuff happening here, right? This state just things come and go quick.
Yeah,
sure. Well, Daniel, let's start let's go back in time, right? A lot of people start with 9 to 5s, right? And they have that entrepreneurial spirit in them. And then eventually they make that jump, right? So talk about your past career. You graduated college. What happened after that?
So I went to school to be a high school teacher, and I have a degree in biology, a degree in education, and pretty much got hired as a high school science teacher pretty soon after graduating. I was living in Canada at the time, and worked up there for a number of years. And to be quite honest, if I had entrepreneurial leanings back then, I don't think I really, they were really being expressed. I was fairly content with what I was doing. It's fulfilling being a teacher. We moved down here about 9 years ago. We had some family living down here. My wife and I worked down here. My wife's a nurse, and I started getting into photography down here as a hobby. I've always loved kind of connecting with the biology degree. I've always loved wildlife and nature, and was just starting doing wildlife and nature photography as a hobby. Started just really trying to hone in my skills in that, really just for myself. I loved seeing these animals in the wild, having those experiences. I wanted to have great photos to look back on as memories. And so I was just pushing myself to get better and better. Ended up getting published in some books and magazines with my wildlife photography, and started really just falling in love with photography as a medium of artistic expression. And so started to think about, I wonder if I could do this as a career. Knew that I didn't want to be a wedding photographer. It just wasn't for me, but didn't really know how to break into it otherwise. And late, like 2020-ish, so actually not that long before I started this company, I tried to start a photography business kind of on the side. It was more of a side hustle, but it was like we tried to officially start that business, and it just spectacularly failed.
Nice.
It didn't go anywhere. I never got any clients outside of like my friends and family group. And it was just like, wow, if I'm ever going to do this, it's going to be a lot harder than I thought it was going to be initially. And
what was the hardest thing? Why did it fail?
I mean, I think that as I look back, I feel like there's a few different reasons why there was failure there. I think one of the biggest ones is that I had zero mentors in my life in terms of the business side of things. You know, I had studied and done all of this work on honing my photography craft, but in terms of the actual business side of things, I had zero help, zero mentorship.
Yeah.
So that was one thing for sure.
Yeah. That makes that's a great point. You kind of touch on. It's one of the things that I'm working on here in our school of art and design, and other kind of music and everything that kind of falls into that side of the university. Recently, that curriculum has adopted one of our entrepreneurship courses as a mandatory elective. And I
Nice.
think it's really great for the arts, because if you're going to be, there's really two tracks over there, right? There's the administration track, right? Which is like, you're going to help run and organize and host events at the Kravis Center, right? And then the other track is like, you hope to be on the stage at the Kravis Center, right? The actual performing arts. And what's oftentimes overlooked is like, all those people are entrepreneurs, or like they're successful entrepreneurs, or they're going to fail, right? Like, if you can't pay your bills, you can't be
Yep.
a drummer, a singer, a DJ, whatever. Like, you can do it part-time, you can
Yep.
do it as a hobby,
Yep.
but you need some of that fundamental business education, mentorship, training, so you can figure out, is this a hobby, or does this represent a business opportunity? Or in most cases, in my experience, what do I need to do to modify this
Hmm.
to make it look like a business opportunity,
Yeah.
right? So, hey, I might have to charge quite a bit more. I might have to pass on this type of job and really hone in on this type of venue and setting. And it's that whole business model development and product market fit, which they never talk about over there historically. So we're going to have some of them in our classes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Not to mention they all have unique skills, right?
Yeah.
So it should be fun for me too.
Yeah.
And what type of, like, explain more detail of the business that failed? What was it?
Yeah. Well,
And how did you shift, of course? to
that's a
the
great
current
question.
business?
Yeah. So I think part of the problem was I made a website and I had, portfolio, but the problem was I was like, I'll do any kind of photography you want,
No niche.
so
That's usually the mistake most entrepreneurs make.
Yeah.
They just like, well, I can work with everyone. I don't
Yeah.
want to limit it to just one
Right,
small group. Right.
So, and then part of the problem there is I didn't have a specific audience I was speaking to. So the marketing side, the sales side, it was just like, yeah, I'll do photography for anybody. But the problem then as you know, is that if you're trying to reach everybody, you're really not speaking to anybody specifically. And so I feel like if somebody went on my website, the portfolio was so diverse that it was like, I don't really know what exactly you do and how you're going to help me specifically. So if back in those days, even though I didn't really want to do this full time, I would have shot a wedding, but I don't think anybody would come to my website and say, oh, this is the guy that I have to have shoot my wedding, because I wasn't a specialist in that. And so it didn't really appeal, or I didn't really show anybody how I could help them with this specific thing. It was just, yeah, I'll do photography for anybody.
So when did the light bulb moment go off in your mind where you're like, I'm going to do headshots? And was it a mentor who helped you out here? Like you mentioned that earlier, like mentorship is so important. So kind of explain how you shifted gears.
Yeah. So I connected through a mutual friend to a guy in DC named John Meadows, who was a full-time headshot photographer. And he wrote a little book called Making Bank with Photography, and just kind of his short little ebook and kind of explaining his journey from going from photography as a part-time side hustle to a full-time profitable business. And so I read that, and I read it in one sitting. I went and said to my wife, I think we can do this. I think that this is giving me some ideas, showing me what I did wrong before, showing me what I needed to do next time. I was able to actually hop on a call with John Meadows and just pick his brain about, if I'm going to do this, what are steps that I need to take to make sure that this photography business gets off the ground, goes in the right direction. And so that initial conversation, talked to a few other people, got some advice, and we jumped in with both feet.
Did you
Yeah,
have to pay them to jump onto a meeting, or
Yes, I did.
you did?
I did.
Very important there, because so often people say, like I'm going to try to DM them. They said no and move on. But that's very important. That it's okay to pay people to pick their brain, and then, see where it goes. If it's good, continuously pay. If it's bad, skip out.
I feel an owl app.
I'm staying away. I'll let Kevin go.
But yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think that's important, because I would look back and say that conversation with that professional, and he actually ended up becoming more of an official mentor, where I was actually paying him monthly. He was kind of running a group, and I was paying him monthly to be in his coaching calls and things like that. But that initial conversation is the foundation for the success of my business. No shadow of doubt in my mind. And we didn't have a ton of money at that. I mean, teacher salary, not, super great.
Yeah, not really a lot of extra startup capital.
Yeah. So I was like, oh man, but I could also see how well, his business was going. And I was like, I was seeing, kind of fresh off of my last business failure, I need industry specific mentorship, and not just like, as much as I love some of the people in my life that are older and wiser than me, not all of them have, in fact, none of them had industry specific advice. And I feel like that is the thing that made the difference starting out, and then kind of laid the foundation for that success.
Yeah, I like it, just looking at it analytically as a kind of a strategic business decision. It's a great market, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen your work, seen the website, like, so I don't want to oversimplify it, but and it's not. What you do is very unique, but in terms of like, it's a little simpler logistically than like a wedding and a makeup
Right.
and a wedding party.
Right.
It's like the person, or maybe the entire company, but whatever it is, it's it's pretty straightforward. So it's also like, it's super niche, but it's a big market. Sort of these days, everybody needs one, but
Yep.
it is very focused. So it's large, but focused, right? When you get unfocused and large, things get real messy.
Yeah.
And across most sectors, well, we do this and that. And it's like, I probably don't do any of them that well. Whereas you're like, let me just be the best at this.
Yep.
Everybody needs this.
Oh, 100%.
I focus in on that. So it's really smart. I think you explained, and folks, check out the website, you get a better idea. I have. You explained kind of your value proposition, how you differentiate in terms of the headshots, but explain a little bit more how you accomplish that. Like, I saw the setup in the studio. It doesn't look like the way we take headshots here at all. So how do you deliver that differentiated factor?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that I would say related to that. Number one is just all of the technical things that go into that. So part of the other piece of the mentorship puzzle is, this guy John Meadows in DC said, if you want to do headshots full time, you need to study under this guy named Peter Hurley in New York City, who widely considered to be the best in the world at headshots. He's been doing it for a couple of decades, and just his headshot work is unmatched. And he's like, he's got a group called Headshot Crew. You need to go and study under him. So that was part of it, was learning I kind of, when I started the business, I kind of arrogantly thought to myself, well, how hard could it be? It's stand somebody over in front of a background, put some light on them, take the picture, get them to good smile.
That's fair, especially if you've been doing wildlife, like, right? You can't really get the animals to do what you want.
That's much more of just to sit and wait and hope for the best, and you got to be in the right place at the right time. But I just, it was I think maybe a fair, it's not going to be that hard, but the way that Peter teaches is, it's so detail oriented, and it's about elevate. It's not just like, hey, stand over here and let's take your picture. It's think about how to elevate them to the next level, how to get genuine expressions out of them, how to put lighting on them that's more flattering than any light in the world. And all of those things. So very, very particular. So that was part of that. And that's part of the process, is the lighting, and even down to like the height of the camera relative to the person makes a big difference in how the photo looks. So there's those technical details, but then I like to think of what I do as more of a coaching thing. It's much more about interacting with the human being than it is about the just stand over here and we'll get the technical details right. Because one of those goals is I want people to show up as the best and most confident version of themselves. And the reality is that 9.9 out of 10 people that get in front of my camera feel incredibly uncomfortable in front of a camera, and that comes across in their expression. They're nervous, they're tensed up, all of these things. So how do I get them from there to looking like the most confident people and relaxed people in the world, and looking like they could walk into any room and own the room? And that's kind of the coaching that I do. But it's not just like a, hey, follow this process of coaching and you're going to get it out of people. It comes down to building rapport, building trust, interacting with people, and getting them to, as they interact with you, they start to forget they're in front of a camera. And so then the images start to look like they're not smiling at a camera, they're smiling at you.
But does that even start on the original either conversation, email drips? Because I'm assuming you kind of do it like we do on the shrimp tank. Like there's just little pieces before you get on the show. So you already have some knowledge. So it's not like, boom, you're in a studio and then these bright lights are on you, which is what makes everyone so nervous. I've been in those situations. Like I was on the news once. It was my first time. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
This does not feel like my podcast studio.
Yeah.
Like the lights are just so bright. And then of course, like the whiteness, sometimes with the screens behind you. And it is nerve wracking, especially if you come with people.
Yep.
When there's people looking at you and you're like, wait, do I have something on my eye? Like, I had a bad meal last night. Do I feel uncomfortable in my style? Like there's so many things as humans, like we just think about ourselves that other people don't see, of course. So what is it, I guess, that you do? Like, is it the drips before and then just the character, comes out during it? Just is it verbal cues?
Yeah,
or
I
is
mean,
it the
it's
entire
so
setting?
it's kind of it's kind of all of the above.
All the
I
above.
mean, so for me, and we might talk about this more later, but for me, building a strong personal brand on platforms like LinkedIn, where people are getting to know me over time, especially if clients connect with me through there, then it's not like the first time we've ever talked. So they've already gotten to know me. They see my work. They see maybe their colleagues or their friends have worked with me. And so there's this kind of building up of trust over time. And then a lot of times with my clients, I'm hopping on a sales call with them. I'm not just like, hey, go book on my website, but I'm actually getting on a sales call, having a conversation, which I view very much as an opportunity to build rapport and to just kind of connect with them, as many like things that we have in common, to just kind of bring out those and talk about those things. So it's kind of building up to that. But then once we get into the studio, and then this becomes especially important when I'm doing like a corporate group where I haven't had the opportunity to talk to everybody ahead of time. Maybe there's 20 people in the group and it's like I haven't talked to 19 of these people and I've only got 5 minutes per person. So for me, it becomes, how do you build rapport in 5 minutes and get those kinds of like comfortable, relaxed expressions in 5 minutes?
Give them Celsius or Starbucks, right? That's how we do it in our office.
Yeah, so that's
like, here, sit back, relax. Here's some Celsius, and then 1 minute later, they're as happy as can be, right? Or Starbucks.
Yeah, for sure. So to me, like, okay, if I've got 5 minutes with somebody, how do I build rapport super quickly? A lot of times for me, it starts with a warm handshake, warm smile. I'm not just saying, hey, come over here and stand over here, but I'm introducing myself. I'm telling them my name. I'm asking them for their name. I'm addressing them by name, and I'm just talking to them. I'm giving them a quick run through of my process, which I think is, most people seem to laugh. So I think it's at least a little bit funny, and that starts to break up some of the tension and break the ice a little bit. And then, part of it is just when I get them in front of my camera, I keep talking with them. Our brains have trouble consciously thinking of two different things at the same time. So if I can get them, and by the way, don't tell people to relax, because then they think about how not relaxed they are. That's like the worst thing.
I'm married. I know that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, relax.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
It always backfires.
Always. So I'm talking with them. I'm guiding them through things. I'm asking them about themselves. And then it's time to start shooting. And I'm like, giving them instructions about certain things that I want them to do, and then I'm throwing out things that are so random that all of a sudden they're like, huh, what? And then they realize I'm just messing with them, and then they just start laughing, and then I get those great genuine expressions out of them.
That's awesome.
That's kind of it. It comes down to people skills, and that's why I think about what I do is so much more than just photography. It is that, but it's the coaching.
And I also see that on your social media. For everyone listening, just pop open his social media, and people, before they get to your studio, are looking at the quotes. You have so many testimonials, like Michelle, who wrote, "It's not a headshot, it's a story waiting to be told." Right. So when you have testimonial after testimonial, people feel more comfortable before they even enter the studio. So you do a great job at that on Instagram. And of course, I've seen it on LinkedIn. We're going to take a quick commercial break to hear from one of our sponsors. When we get back, we're going to jump into Kevin's unique part of the show called What's Hot.
Join the fastest growing community of professionals on the internet with OWL. Access new networks and otherwise unreachable professional contacts through the one-on-one call feature on the app. Scroll through the list of available professionals and join them for a quick call to build rich connections, expand invaluable relationships, and to broaden your professional landscape without needing lofty referrals. OWL. We bring vetted pros to your doorstep 24/7 on demand. Join our community by signing up at owl.com today.
Welcome back to the Boca Raton Shrimp Tank, hosted here in conjunction with the Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. In this part of the show, we are going to find out what's hot, and more specifically, what is hot in the headshot industry. What is popular either in technology or for your business or a growing trend? What's hot?
Man, that's a great question. I think that one of the things that people are finding out in terms of like marketing related to this industry is what an amazing platform LinkedIn is for building a brand for yourself online, connecting with people. And I mean, for what I do as a headshot photographer, I mean, people are taking my work and they're putting it on LinkedIn. A lot of times that's why they're coming to me.
So I thought you might say something like that if you're going to lean into like the business side of things.
Okay.
I imagined or was suspecting that referrals have to be a huge part of your business, right? Because I know when I see somebody who has a headshot that's much better than mine, it's not uncommon to be like, "Hey, great headshot. Where did you get that?"
Yep.
So do you have a robust kind of referral program? How have you figured out that side of the business?
I probably, based on this year's statistics, I would say around 60% of my new clients come from LinkedIn. So that's obviously a significant portion of new business coming from there. And so one of the things that I try to do in terms of utilizing my LinkedIn, I don't like to use LinkedIn as like every day as here's another sales pitch for why you should work with me. And I've seen people, not just photographers, but other industries that do that, and they have zero engagement on their posts. And so what I try to do is I use posts to give my clients shout outs on LinkedIn and, tag them, talk about what they're up to, why you should follow them, and really just try to put the spotlight on them. Then their new headshot is there as well. And so a lot of their network starts seeing it, liking it. A lot of my network then starts following them. So it's a fantastic value add for them. But then it's also, that's my work out there as well. And sometimes like my clients they've seen one of my headshots in a post. And so they come in, they love the experience, and they're saying, "Hey, can I give you a shout out? Can I post about you and the work and the new headshots, whatever, on the platform?" And so that's just kind of happened organically. I don't have a specific referral program, but a lot of people are just kind of getting caught up in the hype, I think, from what's happening, and it's led to referral after referral after referral.
So what's hotter, individual shots or going down B2B lane, right? You get a huge organization like Office Depot, for example, or Celsius, right in our neck of the woods here in Boca Raton, and do maybe 50 at once, go in for the day, set up a studio at their location, or them come to you.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, you could charge bigger bucks. And obviously, you're not doing as many shots, but a lot of, the people on their sales team need it. And they're not going to come to you and pay the big dollars. Right. Or
Right.
they're going to use somebody else who's less expensive to get more, but the quality's not there.
Yeah.
So, like, which one's hotter for you? Are you finding?
Yeah, so right now I'm about 60% individuals and about 40% larger organizations. And those corporate groups range anywhere from like teams of 5 to teams of 30, 40, 50 people. I've done, last year did a team of 90 people over 2 days. And it kind of, you can, set up your business to go in either lane, and some people prefer kind of the lower price, higher volume, getting bigger companies all the time. Kind of the way that I've set up my business is to be more of a white glove, high end, but just super quality service type of business. And so I do work with bigger groups at times. There is somewhat of a volume discount, but I'm also never going to be the cheapest option. Sometimes companies that hire me, they got quotes and I was maybe twice as expensive as the next highest quote, and people that were even significantly less expensive than that, but they still went with me because they saw the value that I brought to the table. And so that's kind of the companies that are doing, and there's nothing wrong with this, but companies that are just, we need like name badges, we need, just, quick photo for everybody. A lot of times those aren't my clients. And I think that kind of goes back to who's your audience, who are you trying to target, how are you speaking to them? So the companies that are, even if they're a bit bigger, but their goal is we need our people to look like, they're high-end sales professionals or an executive team or things like that. Those are kinds of the ideal clients that I'm working with.
What are the hot technologies that you're using for your actual business? Because what's going off in my mind is you're pretty much a one-man show, which most headshot photographers are.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have to go to locations, and you just mentioned there's 90 people, right? That's 90 pieces of data, right? And then you got to send them usually a Dropbox folder, a Google Share folder, right? And get them, things that are quite large files,
Mhm.
right? And that's a problem because no one even sees all the emails. Sometimes the emails go to spam, right? And then you have to communicate with them. So technology is so important to make sure that you run a tight ship. And I think that's usually the separator. What I find with solo entrepreneurs is like one's a mess,
Right.
one has their act together, and one individual, like how is that individual doing all that? Because of the technology, they're making sure that they're leveraging, AI, they're leveraging a CRM, they're leveraging a newsletter. And it goes back to Kevin's point of like, how are you dealing with all the word of mouth referrals? Do you have a program in place that automates like refer a friend, get $10 off? Right. So tell us about the hottest technologies that you're using to kind of stay in the correct direction, being a 5-star service platform.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So one of the most common things, I think, in terms of the process and how the session works, is kind of the standard process that's happened a lot of times is you show up to the company, shoot all of their headshots, send them a gallery after the fact. They have to look through hundreds of photos, and then they take forever to get back to you because they have to chase down their own employees, and so it just becomes a mess, logistical nightmare. It takes them forever to get back to you with their choices, and then so turnaround times suffer there. So I shoot with my camera tethered to my laptop using tethering software. The people that I'm doing the headshots of, they see those images right away. Then we get to kind of narrow it down and pick their favorite one. So the day of the session, I can send all of those images off to, and again, another process, I work with a professional retoucher that an outsource to them. So that's taking care of that. So I can shoot, do more shoots. That's kind of where, the money is not in the retouching, the money is in the shooting. And so outsourcing that speeds up the workflow and gets them back even, within 7 days. Sometimes we can have 40 to 50 images back to the client, and they're happy. I'm happy. Everybody's happy. So that's one of the big things, I think. In terms of like really, really big groups, maybe, events or organizations or things like that, there's new tools on the market where people can, let's say you're at an event, organizer hires you, don't know how many people are going to get headshots, just charge a flat rate for that. There's a new software that you can use where you take the shots, it gets uploaded immediately. If somebody wants their images unretouched, they can get them immediate image delivery. And then if they want to pay for retouching, they can do that on the same software, and then it gets sent off to the retoucher. So it's speeding up everything, taking those logistical problems and simplifying them, speeding them up, so we get, quicker turnaround time, clients happier.
But there's also like CRM, payment processing. That's what's
Yep.
going off in my mind. So
Yep.
do you have a robust CRM and payment processing all tied
Yeah.
together?
Yeah. So I use Square and Acuity paired together for payment processing, scheduling, all of those things. I don't have to do, once somebody, books, they automatically get sent booking confirmation emails, automatically get sent reminders about the session, location, all of the things, just, to make sure that I'm not, as the business owner, having to pull my hair out trying to remember all these things that need to happen.
All right, let's go away from the business for a minute and have a little bit of fun. So, going back to your wildlife photography, taking pictures of birds, is that hot?
Well, I heard the owl in the background. I have some great burrowing owl images, actually, that I've shot in the wild. So actually, my favorite animals in the world and favorite ones to photograph are actually reptiles.
Okay,
So
cool.
alligators, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good. I'm glad it's not hot, because I ask it for a specific reason. There's all these people at this one park I go to by my house.
Yeah.
That are forever taking these pictures of birds, right? And they have these cameras with these huge scopes. That's not the right word, but you get it.
Yeah.
And the shutter just sounds like a machine gun. And these are just the lamest birds. And they're always the same kind of birds. They're just your typical Florida bird. And I'm thinking, they must have tens of thousands of photos of these stupid birds. What are they doing out here? What are they doing with all those photos?
They're taking a long time to go through them is what they're doing.
Yeah. I don't really think I want to know. So reptiles though, huh?
Yeah. Always.
Yeah. Well, you're in a great location to do it.
I really am.
You probably didn't do as much of that in Canada.
No, not really.
Yeah. So alligators?
Yeah. Any reptile that I find is fair game.
What's the largest alligator you've seen since you've been down here?
Probably 12, 13 feet, somewhere around there.
Yeah. That's about you can see them, especially if you make your way down to the Everglades.
Yep.
All right. Well, good. I'm glad you weren't one of these bird guys.
Well, I'll go back to the business. What's the hottest way to really scale this, right? Like, do you have something in mind, being that, once your schedule gets filled up, right, now what, right? There's only so many, you can move more to
that's a great
the
question.
commercial
Yeah,
side.
many of my veterans are kind of struggling with that. They're doing great, right? Because this is the growth cohort. So
Yep.
they're all revenue positive. They're all making money. And it's like, yeah, what do you do? Do you hire a protege? One of them is in construction, had hired a project manager to kind of oversee so he could go after larger bids, but then he wasn't good and
Yeah.
didn't do the job the way he did. How do you scale?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think there's a couple ways to do this. If you are a lower priced model, and maybe your model is, we're just going to get these huge companies, charge them like $10 a head or whatever, something like that, and just kind of more volume based. If you're doing it on your own, you're going to run out of time very quickly, or burn yourself out, things like that. And so a lot of times with those more volume based, you've got to scale and hire, I think, to be very profitable and to not burn out. So that's probably going to mean taking on other photographers, things like that. The way that my business is set up, and be lower volume, higher price, but very, very high service level. And right now I do not have to be fully booked to be very profitable.
Yeah.
But I do have my eyes on, how do we take this to the next level? I've seen the potential that's here. And so I'm interested in thinking through different ways to grow. And so
Yeah.
I've got kind of this idea, and actually just recently closed my first deal for another photographer in Pittsburgh that trained by the same guy, very similar style of headshot. I know the guy personally. He's a great guy, great photographer, works with his clients very well. And I connected with this person on LinkedIn, got on a call with them. They actually were like considering flying down to work with me in Florida, which has happened. I've had clients fly in from other states, but this person was like, "Oh, you've got an affiliate in Pittsburgh," so I ended up closing the deal right there on the phone, handing this guy a brand new client, and also getting commission from that. And so trying to think through how to scale that model as well.
Yeah, I think you have a lot of opportunity, but at some point that bandwidth could still kind of creep in. So how long have you been doing this full time?
About 3.5 years.
Yeah, so I would imagine 3 years is probably like a good place for some pretty massive expansion. Do you have a kind of an automated or a CRM promotion kind of strategy around retaking headshots? Because I would imagine 3 years is kind of a nice spot. I feel like a lot of people, myself included, like you forget how long it's been. But once you get to whatever it is, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, you have a book of business with dates, times, names, contact information where you can automate. Hey, I bet you can't believe it, but it's been X amount of years. Let me know when you want to update your headshot. I have an opening XYZ. And I'm imagining that can kind of, plus you've got the new clients at that time. And then every single week you've got old, potentially new again clients, right?
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I'm just starting to get to the place where I'm getting those people, those like first clients that I had, that we've stayed in touch, we've stayed connected, and they're just now starting to come back about 3 years in to get updates. So they're doing new things, they're updating their branding, all of those things.
Yeah.
So that's something we're starting to work on, some of those. How do we take things to the next level? So that's definitely part of that.
What about on the other side, just mentoring other photographers? I mean, that's a course you took, right?
Mhm.
So I just get the sense like if you start becoming so well known in South Florida, everyone keeps knocking on your door to pick your brain, and then you're like, wait a second, my focus has to be on what pays me the most, which
Right.
is snapping photos, right? And then all of a sudden, someone wants to pick your brain for $50, and you're like, no, like I can't do that many one-offs, And then you start seeing a lot of people start doing courses and group Zooms, and then there's a lot of money in that.
Yeah.
Right? Before you know it, you got 100 people on a Zoom, paying $1,000 for a month course, and it adds up quickly.
Yeah.
We see a lot of models like that, but it cannot work for everyone. And to be fair, a lot of people don't want to scale. They like the model that they, have two appointments a day and they're making 100 to 300 grand, let's say, right? And then cap it out, and they're great because scaling runs into problems with people.
Right.
People are really hard to manage, right? So we see a lot of entrepreneurs come through the Shrimp Tank. They scaled and then they shrunk the company back down because they realized they didn't want to always put out fires, right?
Yeah.
But let's talk to just the group coaching side. Do you see that in your future?
Absolutely. Well, I see it in my present. So what's started to happen about 1.5 years ago is, I'm part of some photography business groups, like on Facebook and places like that. And I started to have, just kind of out of the blue, we weren't marketing for this or anything. We weren't even thinking about this. And I started to have some photographers, not even in South Florida, kind of different places around the US, reaching out to me saying, hey, can I pay you to hop on a call and pick your brain about photography business stuff? And I was like, sure. I'm happy to share. I've had people pour into me, so I'm happy to, share with the successes that I've had. And then it just kept happening again and again. And then some of those clients became repeat clients because what we talked about worked, and they started getting more clients. And so about maybe halfway through last year, I started talking with my wife and just saying, should we be more strategic about this? Should we start, planning to have kind of an arm of the business that's more of a coaching other photographers side of the business? And so, I, as a background as a high school teacher, I enjoy teaching. I enjoy educating people. I love helping people get that aha moment where they get it and it clicks, and then things start really working for them. And to have some of those people say, I got, 5 more clients this month because of the things that you told me, and I went and implemented it and it worked, was just so incredibly rewarding. And so one of the things we've started to do is I'm working on writing a book related to how I accelerated my photography growth even in the first 12 months of my business. What are the practical things that really led to and encouraged that growth. So we're done the first draft. We're starting to work with a publisher. Really excited about that, and then using that as a lead generation magnet for other coaching opportunities, group workshops. We're booked for me to teach my first photography business workshop next month, actually, in my studio. This world famous guy, Peter Hurley, is coming. He's going to teach his headshot workshop in my studio in June. And the day before that, we're partnering, and I'm going to be teaching the photography business side of that. And we've already got, I can't believe it, we've got photographers flying in from multiple different states already to be a part of that.
Congrats.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's pretty cool to see. And in under 4 years, like to see a failure and then success, right? Where it came to just, learning those business skills through a mentor and then executing. It's just a phenomenal story. And, to see it expanding through helping others and seeing them have wins, it's awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break to hear from one of our sponsors. When we get back, we're going to jump to our Plead the Fifth segment of the show.
Step into our state-of-the-art innovation lab and create your digital future. Oz uses cutting-edge technology and 22 years of industry knowledge to enhance customer experience through digital innovation in a variety of expertise. Oz is a leading global consulting company whose services and solutions are trusted by startup, midsize, and even Fortune 500 companies. Get to know more about Oz's Salus, a mobile solution bringing us back to max capacity, and their latest solution, Rainmaker, saving insurance companies years of work. To learn more about Oz and their exciting technologies, visit followoz.com. That's FOLLOWOZ.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Shrimp Tank. As a reminder, check out everything on our Instagram account at Shrimp Tank Boca. We post all the guests before they're on the show, and of course, all different edited clips on there as well. So, Daniel, in this element of the show, it is called Plead the Fifth, right? We're going to ask you a question. You do not want to answer it. You just say, I plead the fifth, but you can't plead the fifth more than once or you lose the bet. Losing the bet is you have to give me and Kevin something. So if you plead the fifth twice, you have to give Kevin some new headshots. Okay, is that a deal?
Deal.
Okay, Kevin, it's on. He's going to get you on the cover of Forbes this year.
There we go.
Okay, let's start with what was the most annoying customer experience you had in the last 30 days? Tell us a story, or don't, because they might know it is them, because the story, they might be listening out there. Maybe they aren't. Oh, I
think it was somebody that shall remain nameless, but was about an hour late to their session. But it flipped around. It ended up being one of the best sessions in the last 30 days. So it was like, it started out, there was the potential for me to respond like, I'm so annoyed. And, there's a little bit of that. But it ended up being a fantastic session. So I was like, okay, it was annoying, but then it wasn't. So
were they high profile, at least? Like
from New York City.
Okay.
Yeah.
Usually New Yorkers aren't late, right?
Yeah. I don't know if it was traffic or what was going on, but they got there. We had a great time. So.
Okay. Kevin, you're up.
All right, let's dig into the financials then, see if maybe you'll plead the fifth on that. How many headshots? And I know the price varies because sometimes you have a corporate who's doing more, but on average, how many headshots do you have to take to make the equivalent of your high school teacher salary?
Do you want like number of head? Because I don't know if I figured that. Can I do the
Ballpark.
math real quick?
Ballpark.
Can I do the math real quick?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So let's see here.
Shrimp tank.
Math wasn't my subject.
Boca Raton shrimp tank
Oh,
takes
look
a
at that. I
math
like
minute.
this. He's getting the calculator out.
150 headshots.
All right.
Not bad. He could do that in like a week or two.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
that's great. Okay. When you taught biology, did you used to teach AP bio?
I never actually got there, so I was kind of lower on the totem pole of, brand new teachers, and they kind of make you teach whatever is available. So I taught some more general science typically, but my degree is in biology.
Okay, then I'll ask you the same question I was going to anyways. Do you think you could get a 5 on the AP bio exam?
Right now?
Sure.
No. It's been a while. It's been
very hard.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to throw a low ball here because it relates to baseball. So I'm looking on your Instagram page. You had the former Major League Baseball general manager at your studio recently.
Yes.
Right? And I don't know how to pronounce
Kim Ing.
Okay.
I can't believe they got us an hour late. No,
What?
Just kidding.
What was your biggest pet peeve of working with Kim? Or say I plead the fifth.
What if there wasn't one? I'm going to say I plead the fifth.
Oh, there's always one. Everyone
All
gets
right.
annoyed by other humans all the time. Okay, that's one, Kevin. You're one more plead the fifth away from getting free headshots. And let's make a deal. Him and me can only ask one more question each because we don't want to keep going on forever. It's not fair.
Okay. Let's see. And it's tough. Well, I'll ask a relatively easy one. What should be all in all goal with this business? Where does it go from here in an ideal world? Do you end up with the protege and with the staff doing more coaching, taking more photos, or does it remain more of kind of a lifestyle thing that you scale to the extent you're comfortable with? Where do you go?
So, professionally, I mean, and again, this is morphing all the time, but I see myself continuing, maybe hiring a protege or several, depending on how things go, and becoming more of a nationally known, still high end, still very boutique feel, but more nationally known and trusted business. But then perhaps in the future, some of the more, bigger groups and things like that, my proteges go handle them. Important, CEO or executive team, we bring in the big guns, which is me. I work with them one-on-one, but then also moving more into I really like the idea of speaking not only to photographers to help them with their businesses, but also I can see myself speaking to corporate as well, corporate groups, corporate stages, speaking about things related to how do you build a strong personal brand? How do you invest in your employees to do that? And the getting up in front of a corporate group in that capacity scares me, but I've learned in my business to do the things that scare me.
All right. Well, I bought Jason some time to hit you with a
Yeah,
real hard question.
Look what's up on my screen. It is Kevin Cox's headshot from LinkedIn. Right? So go ahead and take a quick look at that. Look, Kevin's blushing over there.
Yeah.
Some nice headshot photographer out there did that. Can you tell us everything wrong with that headshot? Because I see some things. I see some shadows. And tell us what the headshot photographer did wrong, or plead the fifth because you don't want to rat on that person. It could be someone we know. It could have been a past guest of the Shrimp Tank who took that. I don't even know. It might be.
I'm gonna critique it.
He's going all in, guys. He's not pleading the fifth
twice.
twice.
And I'm doing this as I'm putting my teacher hat on here because I think there's some easy things. So this looks like really bad office lighting, I would say, because his eyes
taken in a home office.
Well, I mean, there you go. So his eyes are very shadowed.
You're right on point.
So his eyes are very shadowed. So we communicate with our eyes. So if you can't see the eyes because they're in shadow, it takes away from that. And to me, one of the biggest things as well besides the lighting, is I want to see more of Kevin's personality. And I want to
So
see
do I.
something.
So do I.
I want to see something that looks like Kevin, because I know based on talking with Kevin, even for this brief time, Kevin can walk into any room and talk with anybody and own the room. And I want to see a headshot that looks like that. And I'm gonna,
wait until
even though,
you see his Christmas outfit.
how about this? How
He's
about
got
this?
this outfit every year. He wears once a year for the shrimp tank, and he does exactly that. He steals the show.
How about this? How about, even though I didn't plead the fifth, how about we have Kevin come in anyways, and we'll get him that Forbes magazine shot.
Okay, Kevin.
I'll be there.
He's going to take you up on that offer.
Yeah, what a fantastic deal. So yeah.
It's not like he's on the show every single week and like a headshot really matters on his social media profile, right?
Yeah, so a little context for that one. That one was taken via cell phone during the pandemic at the home office. So not the most professional. Great question, Jason. Thanks.
Well, see what Daniel actually just did there. I picked up on it. It's a good thing to have you come into that studio, because then you're going to post it on LinkedIn and then the referrals will continue to pour in. Obviously, Kevin is connected to everyone at FAU Tech Runway, right? The lead instructor there, director of entrepreneurship here, professor here. So, inevitably, sometimes you give something away for free in business, some headshots, right? Which I don't know your cost for it, $1,000, $2,000, but, think about the return on referrals, right? And it's okay in business to sometimes give a little bit, just being kind, and naturally you have no expectations. It could come with referrals, it may not.
And
but typically, like, I do that type of stuff all the time, right? With Owl, I barter, and I'm doing that with TEDx this weekend.
Yeah,
we have a booth and we set our booth up, and
there's probably even, well, there is, because I've been asked before, probably even a decent market like here. And you might think, well, students graduating, they probably don't have the budget for that. But I know for a fact, coming off last weekend, parents do. So parents spend a ton on graduation photos, and kind of the next logical step is like, well, now that we do that, why don't we help them get a job and get out of the house by parentally sponsoring a professional headshot to kind of go right along with the graduation photos. So that makes a lot of sense.
And that's happened a lot of times. My clients coming in for their own, businesses, brands, and then, hey, my son, my daughter graduating college, want to get them set up, can they come in for a headshot? And so that's happened numbers of times. And yeah, I mean, that's, like, I'm sure you guys in entrepreneurship classes, teaching them about LinkedIn, building the profile, what to put on there, having a great headshot, a great way to put your best foot forward.
Nice.
Well, Daniel, thanks for joining us here on the Shrimp Tank today. For our audience listening, what are the best routes if they want to connect with you one-on-one? Is it LinkedIn directly, DMing you? Is it through your website, filling out a contact form, or Instagram, or Owl itself?
Yeah, all of the above. So LinkedIn is it is my biggest platform professionally. I post a lot of content on there, try to add a lot of value. So definitely encourage people to follow me, Daniel Wakefield, on LinkedIn. Instagram, posting a lot of trying to post a lot of value for especially other photographers on Instagram. So top-tier_headshots on Instagram. And yeah, look me up on Owl. I've made some great connections over the past month or so, people in other states, and just like collaborating, sharing ideas, things like that has been a great platform. They can also visit my website, toptierheadshots.com, see my portfolio, fill out a form if you're interested. Love to hop on a call with people and just talk it out, see if it's a good fit.
Thanks again for joining us here on the Shrimp Tank. Everybody tuning in, we will be back next Wednesday right around 1 o'clock. Take care.
Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it's